previously. Jim Ross, Ryan and Scott.
Hi, Ryan. Hi, Scott. Good video.
Morning.
I'm going to do this through here.
Huh.
Are we waiting for anybody else?
I think Ethan might join us, but I'm not sure. I don't think he's online, so we can go ahead and get started.
Okay. So I guess just this, we've been playing with this board and kind of designing it to how, actually, give me 1 second. You go ahead, Jim, because I got to get Bree connected. I got to send this. I have to send a link to Bree. So do you want to talk about?
Are you guys familiar with Mural?
No.
Say it again.
Mural, M-U-R-A-L.
No.
That's a application that runs in a fashion with a whiteboard, but allowing sticky notes and a number of other things in real time. And it's a platform that we've been using for, I don't know, several years. And then what we've done in terms, and another term, design thinking. I know both of you guys are design thinkers. Are you familiar with design thinking as well?
I am.
I can't really say that I am.
Okay, so, but I watched your video, so I know you're a design thinker already. And it's nothing new, it's just been codified in IDEO out of Stanford has been making this case on behalf of human-centered design, which is a great thing, which is no more than creating things with the intended user in mind. Geez, who wouldn't have thought of that? But a combination of design thinking, the Mural platform, whiteboarding, and then what we've added to it is graphical organizers. And the reason we've used graphical organizers, why don't you get rid of that?
Yeah, I am. Sorry.
Quickly and zoom in a bit so they can see the graphical organizers. The advantage of using the graphical organizers is it gives us a body and a contextual landing spot, and you know, you have a vision chart on one side and a game plan chart on the other side, which is to say you have a beginning and an end, and then what we do in the middle is some serious thinking, or like we like to think it's serious thinking, but most of it is the process of taking relevant evidence and then drawing conclusions. And when you do this with a, you know, insightful group of individuals, wonderful things take place, and they take place pretty quickly. The other advantage, of course, is it's available 365, 24/7, so productivity goes up a bit. Any thoughts or feedback?
Well, I think that this is really interesting what you guys are doing.
Can you show them a sticky note?
You cut out.
Huh? We lost you? We lost Scott?
Ryan
We
cut
lost
out.
Ryan. Did we lose him all?
Oh, jeez.
Is it
Up
already?
top, it's my satellites.
I'll be looking at 7-8 weeks, maybe even further. We just got further in Florida. They may want us to stretch into the end of May.
Hey guys, sorry we lost you.
Yeah, we lost you for a second. Sorry about that.
Go again.
Oh, there's
There's
Ethan.
Ethan.
Joining us.
Hey, good morning. Afternoon.
Ethan the outlaw.
So I was just saying that I wasn't sure if you caught that, but we're having a lot of interesting conversations and high-level conversations in the placemaking community. We definitely need more exposure to tools to collaboratively design and think together, document that thinking, and then share it out so that groups can continue to move. Ideas even
Okay, we should be back on now. Okay, we should be better now with our.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Okay, we should be back rolling now. Sorry about that. Yes.
So this board's kind of full because we've been playing with it and adding documentation and so forth and so on. And the best way to start is with an empty board and work forth and forward so that everybody's on the same page. But we did this so that you can get a sense of the kind of depth and PDFs and. Can you open a PDF? Is there a PDF to open?
Yeah, so everything here is clickable. We thought going around the theme of the sustainable development goals, and so you can zoom into this box, and anyone can jump into a project and get on the same page. And then of course, like, pulling the elements and connected thinking around each document. So like down here, pages 8 through 10 and another document kind of lay out some of the things I think we were covering when we were talking about having hyperlocal projects and figuring out a process that's shared across local governments and communities, and then scaling that up for.
So the other thing when we talk about communities as well, when we do charrettes with communities, we actually use analog tools. We start out, and I always recommend to everyone to begin with analog tools.
That's everything
Which
us here, which
are just big organizers. Again, vision chart, a game plan chart, and the rest of it is about how they interact with that in a community-focused engagement.
So then, okay, so what you were saying was the left is kind of the vision or where we want to go, and then the right is where we end up, and then the stuff below is kind of the assets.
Yep, exactly.
Exactly.
Kind of the evidence and such that is necessary to inform everyone from which to work from. And anybody with any device can access this from a laptop to a desktop to a phone.
And here we have the conferences you've hosted, just anything relevant that's for getting newcomers up to speed on a project.
And you can run it through Microsoft 365. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to facilitate this for much larger groups.
Very cool.
I love starting with the sustainability goals, and it was great how in that one presentation the guy actually mapped his work back to those goals.
Yes.
And the other thing, kids are really good at this. You know, the instructional model says you just have to get the answer. So of course, adults typically say, well, why don't you call me when you get the answer? Meaning that the thinking's really not necessary. But of course, we all would agree thinking's important, I think. And then kids, because they've never been asked, are really accelerants. And when they get involved in this, if you're doing analog, you have to get back because you're liable to get taped to the board. But the advantage of having young people as integral visioners in this process, I think, is really crucial. I mean, we're talking about the future in so much, in so many cases, and they're the future. So we do a lot in Pontiac here to engage kids in their downtown because there was a loop built around the city of Pontiac roadway to keep people out, and it was successful. And we're attempting to have kids get back in their city and have some meaningful engagement because otherwise they won't be staying here. They'll be moving to other places. In Michigan, we lose about 60% of our best and brightest for that very reason. They have no personal engagement in their city. So that's part of our persuasive proposition as well. Other thoughts?
Ethan, do you see, could a tool like this be useful for a PlacemakingX session, or how the region's leaders, how it all works together and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that resonate with me here. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it entirely, though. Yeah, I mean, I think we need to offer people tools and a process to develop these declarations, and I think we should show how it's a similar set of principles and processes to creating a good place. And so this stuff, a lot of this resonates and parallels some of the approaches we've taken for placemaking, certainly. But yeah, it'd be great to create a toolkit together, maybe to help people develop a declaration, a placemaking declaration during this, especially during this next few months. So yeah, I mean, I guess the best thing to do in our approach is often to, as you say, to set a prototype and actually apply some of these tools with an actual declaration or two. So, maybe with Scott's situation, or, we can find some others too.
So
Scott, does that make sense, or?
Yeah, sorry, I've been a little bit quiet.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Monica. This is really stunning. Don't mistake my quietness for a lack of enthusiasm. I could see how we could get going almost immediately if the partners are willing to pull it together. Holding a joint meeting with local, regional, national, and international interests is sort of, we can stage that in any way the group thinks is necessary. We can open the door to everybody at the beginning, or we could start with a session with the locals and then expand it out. I'm only reluctant to say we could start at the top and work our way down. I think that's what we're trying to countervail, if you will. So the ingredients are all here. I get it. It's not only stimulating, it's documenting and memorializing all the thoughts and putting them in a mind map sort of a way that one can access it all. And very much all of it in a networkable environment, which is really key. So if we were to begin to go forward, it would just be a matter of honing in on how that audience staging works, and then doing the setting a date, doing the outreach. And obviously we're not going to be able to deal with tangibles on the physical board. That's the other unique part about this for now. However, I think we should recognize right from the beginning that on a local level, that's game on if you want to bring your physical stuff to get it going. But I'll leave you guys in charge of that. The depth of this process gives me a whole lot of comfort in not having to worry at night about how are we going to safely and equitably guide our community through something, transparently guide our community through something. This is a 10 on 10, maybe higher. So those are sort of my initial comments.
Awesome.
Wow. And I think, like, for me, like, when I read the declaration, it looks very flat, and I know there's a lot of information in it. So I feel like this format's really good because, like, each bullet in the declaration could be its own tile, and then you start to see that they're thematic. And then on the left, maybe you have the Wuhan declaration. On the right, you have the new custom one. And it's about reinterpreting those tile cards to what they mean or how they would be said locally. So,
sure. I don't know that we couldn't appropriate the iconography from UN Habitat to, so at each of the points you can say this checks these various boxes in the sustainable communities, sustainable development icons. And I'll also say, kicking off of what you said, Ryan, I've taken to heart Tina's comments about it's strict, it's big words. They're not that big, but I get that. And how do you make it relatable to others? So, Monica, when you start to add in the visuals, as Ryan has said, it really does begin to make the document come alive and be more approachable. I think that's a great way that you framed it, Ryan.
And when you localize that, in other words, you're using pictures that are relevant to the audience, it even becomes more so.
Yes. Yes.
So in this process, do people typically have roles? Like, is there somebody pulling out photos, or is there somebody, is there different assigned roles in the process?
Yeah, well, that is where it's very flexible, and for each team to figure out and figure out what's the vision, what are the main challenges we're facing, who's going to pull in, and everyone can work on the board prior to any kind of event and during, but that would just be up to the project leads to determine. There's in the game plan here, there's team and resource bucket. And so you could, pull in whatever information. We just put in some general things to designate those for this overview, but it can adapt.
This gets rolling really quickly, and of course, what happens is it gets deeper. And so, there's less to do because all of a sudden you're thinking more deeply across, various disciplines and so forth and so on. So originally it starts out very quick and fast, and away we go, and then it kind of finds its own pace, so to speak.
So it sounds like maybe what we would do is I'm starting to look at this as like a game board.
Uh-huh.
And it's like we would say, okay, here's the Wuhan Declaration on the left and the sustainability goals from which it stems. And it's a government framework to give placemakers power to, basically tie their work back up to these bigger goals. Here's the different ones, the tile path of categories of like biking and mobility and local commerce or whatever they are. And then on the right is how we've translated those to a local context. And so we want to get people from the left to the right into redefining that document on the left to this new document format, graphic, whatever the first declaration ends up being. And that would be a test of using this process to translate the Wuhan document to a local document with community context.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
So I'm more than happy to be the guinea pig for this and lead to the best of my ability a fairly new group of constituents. They're old friends, but we're all new to this localized effort. We have the time. We have interested parties that they've started to show up for the other webinars. And if that's something you guys want to pursue, I just ask for some direction about next steps, Monica, and follow your lead, because this is your process. And I'd love to, have the suggestions of if it's about bringing materials to the meeting, how best to prepare for all of that, so that we can get it going. And also, again, to hear from the group about the inclusion and should that start on a local level exclusively, or should it begin with a broader perspective with coaches and interested parties involved from the beginning?
I think that's a great question. Defining that is a feel thing, and we don't have enough feel for that. Perhaps you can lead us in how that unfolds.
Well, then I'll tell you what my gut says. My gut says that the way to do this is to do a local session and to bring this board together with our local context. And then as a second part of it, to open it up to an interactive session with US and X stakeholders, Europe stakeholders, however we want to do that in one session or more than one, maybe even more than one, where folks do get a chance to weigh into the process and begin to get buy-in to it. But starting with that core contextual information would allow me to assure the folks locally that point of beginning had their context in it.
And Scott, how many people do you think that is?
I think we could. I'm going to be realistic and say we could pull together a group of 6 to 10.
Perfect. Yeah, great.
It's a nice. I like in iterations like this, and I've learned through network theory that anytime you get a group past about 7 or 8, you need to subdivide it into 2 groups, or it becomes less productive. There are exceptions to that, of course, but for what we're doing right here, I think that would be a good rule of thumb.
So we would suggest that we have kind of an introduction. Okay, because the good part is getting people just familiar enough with the tools to play with them, so that they get confident.
So we would maybe then, if I'm hearing this, we would conjure up an introductory session where folks could understand what they were preparing to do. They could then get some guideposts about how to show up to the interaction prepared. for business and what the process is going to look like, and even in this case, sort of what some of the outcomes begin to look like. Then go in and do that. Then we could, if everybody's up for it, then we could stop, check all of that, make sure everybody feels like it's pointing forward, and then go to the next step of including the larger group into the iteration. How does that sound?
That's great.
Awesome.
That way they're the authors as opposed to we're the authors for them.
Yes. But I think we'll impress upon anybody at any level of this that it begins with that local context.
Perfect.
I think that's the way Fred would want us to do it.
That sounds so awesome. And then Scott, if you need this Zoom account or something, we can set up that meeting for you, so you have the, all the features or whatever.
Thanks. That's great to know as well, and because I'm a Google corporate customer, they've got Meet fired up like crazy. At least until July, I can host 250 people.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So just so you know, I haven't. The Hangouts that we're doing now are switching over to Meet, the European stuff, and it's pretty robust too. Just so you know, but. I'm happy to not have to organize all that stuff. It's not my strongest suit.
So this is great. I love the sort of, I don't know how much you guys know about PlacemakingX, but the idea is that we sort of have, it's hold-ons really of people working on places, on districts, on cities, on, regions. And I agree, Scott, that it's, it's the 7 to 8 people that are sort of working, smaller than that, groups smaller than that need to be sort of the working groups that develop the action plans. So it'd be cool if we, in a way, have little declarations for each of these scales as models at various points. Certainly PlacemakingUS could have a, would be good to have a declaration, at some point with a core group of 7 to 8 people. And of course, the timeliness of this is that it's a time to rethink and recommit to our shared experiences, our shared spaces together, and how we all have joint responsibility for them. But yeah, we wanted, each of these declarations will innovate in different ways. We'll have, we'll obviously reflect the local identity and culture and process of their community, and we'll introduce some new ideas and inspiration to others. So we need we do a few examples, some demonstration projects in a sense, and then create more of a process for people to do this themselves a little bit, and get guidance if they need it, perhaps. But some tools for people to do it themselves. And I think we all have experience for parts of this, but it's good to work as a team like this, and to sort of to hone this and structure it a little more. So does that make sense? And Scott, we'll use you as a guinea pig. That's really helpful. Thank you.
I think we're blessed to be able to do it in some ways as well. And
Yeah.
South Florida as a base for this, and we had partners from Miami and West Palm on. We have some very unique place challenges here. They're true in other parts of the world, but we've got a heck of a lot of coastline, and a big place that a lot of people like to come. A lot of people like to come here.
Yeah.
And so these challenges with resiliency and tying the topics a little bit more together in this adaptation of the declaration is another really interesting twist, as we threw it up in the sustainability light, and now we're kind of have that on the board next to it. That's getting kind of real, because it was just a notion, but now seeing the UN stuff coming forward with it and saying this is getting to be something I think very meaningful for our region, and if we can get some traction with it, I think it will help us regionally to plan. South Florida is, by the way, when you net out the Everglades, which is essentially uninhabitable, we are the densest, most populous metropolis in the nation.
Right. Right.
Wow.
Hmm.
Be careful.
So as far as the pre-planning goes, Scott, what do you think? Could you riff, like, how will you prepare your group to work with this tool? Would you show the video Monica sent of kind of going through this tool? Would you ask them to pick one of the items in the declaration to be that they want to focus on during the session, or how much like work is set versus the coming together and playing with the tool together?
So I defer a little bit to Monica, but my gut would say I'd probably not get them involved in doing too much homework to come to that first meeting. But yes, the movie and just say, plan to set aside an hour or whatever Monica says, and we'll discuss more about the process at that point. That way, folks can actually choose what they're going to bring. They'll take their cues and not have to have too much predisposition. That's my thought anyhow, but Monica? Yeah? Okay.
Sounds right. Plus,
Yeah,
And then
get up in the door. If I, we'll go from there, I think.
And then Monica, do you have to set up the board at all in advance, or is that something that kind of comes together in the session as well?
we'll put some cues. We'll put some visual cues at
Couple simple things.
just real broad thematic structural cues, and then it'll be more conversational, and then I'll do some documentation of that while we're rolling through.
Maybe get them to do a couple of sticky notes or something of that nature so they get comfortable.
Invite. Oh, and it's a link I can share so anyone can access the board anonymously.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll put together a little something that looks like an invitation. That looks like that, and I'll share it with you guys for your feedback before I send it out, because yes, setting those expectations about what's going to happen, and saying after this we're going to do that, and then that might be just a little bit of outline. So I may lean on you guys for some editing after I get that drafted.
Okay.
And then Monica and John, what are your last names?
Monica Williams
Monica Williams.
and Jim Ross.
Oh, Jim Ross. Okay. And then are we thinking like next week in April, like the 6th through the 10th, sometime in there for that first session?
Yeah, I think that's doable for me, but again, it's going to take the team.
You're good with that.
We're good with that. Open to suggestions.
Why don't we try for, just so I have a little bit of lead time, maybe next Thursday evening?
Okay.
Okay. And we might send them out maybe Wednesday or Thursday morning, so that if somebody wanted to access it and just get some comfort to see it,
Yep.
And we can make them aware that they're more than able to play with it. They can't hurt anything. As somebody who's mastered the gymnastics, okay?
And there's drawing functions as well. If you have any artists or anyone that likes visual, you can draw on the sticky notes.
Love it. And I love that we'll get to play with one of these tools because I think we're going to be needing tools like this for more advanced collaborations moving forward.
Yeah.
I agree. I can see that. I can see a future in this. It's pretty neat.
Well, Jim can do a whole session one time about his history and digital and working with the automakers in Michigan and pioneering some of the stuff. So it is pretty artfully put together over time.
We'll save that for
Yeah,
much later.
He doesn't like talking about himself too often, but.
And are you guys like an NGO, or what's the background on the incubator?
L3C, limited liability, but with
okay.
but with the mission. And what we're really doing is not so much business, but social. And really narrowing in, and isn't it interesting that what we're going through currently is leading us right to those very things, including placemaking. It's the thing that is going to build up a tremendous amount of opportunity for engagement as we go through the next several months. And I think this is really a very timely situation that's developing in terms of what's taking place locally for everyone and so forth. And it really makes you appreciate what we're talking about. I mean, we're really excited about that. You are as well. And very few people recognize, even at this point, how important that is.
Awesome. Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a challenge in order for people to recognize what should be obvious.
So this is awesome. Let me know how I can support going forward. Anyway, I'll keep looking through some of this stuff too. I'm gonna have to get off. There's some kids that surrounding me here, but yeah, I look forward to helping and learning from the an example process and then figuring out how to get it to apply to different scales and such. So let's go.
Play with the sticky note, because if you can demonstrate that takes and gives everybody some comfort. So everyone that's on this call, just put the function and some of the other things.
I have to send the link.
Oh, she's going to send you the link so that you have open access. Okay. So play around. It won't hurt anything. And we'll get into some of the other things like loading sites and loading PDFs and all of that.
Up here are some brief tips for just navigating.
Yeah, just for the mouse tips and so forth and so on.
I see. Okay.
All right, thanks, Ethan. And then the rest of you guys, I sent the calendar invite for a hold time for next Thursday evening, so we can work towards that.
Great. Hey, Monica, what's your email address?
Thanks, guys. I'm gonna sign off. Appreciate it.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Really good. Nice to see you guys. Yeah. Bye-bye.
What's your email address?
My email is Monica, MONICA, at Finco, which is spelled PHINCO.org.
Got it. Thank you.
I could have just typed it out.
Nope, that's all good. Appreciate it. I will get to work on the preliminaries on this stuff and be back to you guys by tomorrow.
Okay.
Whoa, you guys are both so awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
Fun.
I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I wish I were up in Michigan. I'd be sitting with you right now, Monica. Because I'm usually just down the road.
Right, Scott. Can you tell Jim briefly before we leave about your Silverdome store? You're from here.
Oh, yeah, I am. So yeah, actually, I live in Oak Park part of the year. My grandfather Jim was the builder of the Pontiac Silver Dome.
Wow. Wow.
$58 million all in, which was it was the only dome at the time that was finished on time and under budget. Anyhow, I watched with great pride and delight when you guys tried to blow it up and failed. We just thought that was, my whole family thought that was the greatest thing of all time. 1,000 sticks of dynamite and you couldn't do it.
I was laughing with you.
We were, yeah.
You know, and actually, historically, going back further than that, as we're talking about whiteboarding and think tanking, his father was the builder of Ford Piquette and the secret experimental room where the Model T was created.
Wow. Wow, no surprises here. See, the cream is rising to the top here, and I was wondering what my last few years on the planet might look like. This is.
So my little story was about 8 years old. I got hauled out to my first job site, and that was the Mustang plant.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
So did he have any interaction with Don Davidson on building the Phoenix Center here in Pontiac?
I don't know that they did or didn't.
Well, those two projects were tied together in their infancy as they described them and put them forth. And we were just successful in saving the Phoenix Center from being destroyed and demolished.
Okay.
Which is an entertainment venue in downtown Pontiac.
Have you seen the Edith and Eli Broad Museum up in Lansing? That was he's passed on, but that was another kind of cool project they did not too long ago.
Wow. Well, you know what's interesting is that involvement is part of this unfolding story in terms of placemaking here in Pontiac. I mean, they literally were going to demolish the Phoenix Center, which is a 3-tier parking garage, and got a 6.5-acre entertainment complex on top. And their wisdom there was that they wanted to invite another, 25,000 cars into the city, because when they built the Phoenix Center, it blocked Saginaw from continuation of Woodward, which kind of bottlenecked the city. But the truth is, if you ask yourself the question, 25,000 more cars, where would they park if you just got rid of the Phoenix Center, which is the parking garage?
Right.
So there wasn't too much deep thinking going there. So we were able to prevail on saving it. And I'm sure you've been familiar with the conversation that goes to the Campus Martius in Detroit, which is 2 acres. And here we have 6.5 acres at the other end of Woodward. And they wanted to demolish it. So we're really excited about it being saved. Now we have to figure out how to pay for it.
Yeah, the tricky part.
The tricky part, yeah. So
yeah, we got to put that note on the board. Put that note on the board. Now I want you to remember this. The tricky part about sustainability is you got to sustain it.
Yes.
Well, I think we're going to have some fun. Okay.
All right.
Real fun. We have some additional things to add on to this that go with the mission at hand and speak loudly about what that represents. Maybe
all right.
We'll
Very cool.
A celebration event around that. Tie a little bow on it for the mayor.
That's what I'm talking about.
Awesome.
All right, you guys.
Okay.
Well, thanks for inviting me over.
All right, folks.
Great conversation. Bree joined us. We're going to head off now, Bree, but Bree's in Chattanooga.
So we have a
Hi.
We're working on a pilot there as well, and some other sites that we want to bring into this too. But
Bree, you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
Tell a little bit about briefly your experience there in Chattanooga.
So I am a new Chattanooga. Well, I guess I'm not that new. I've only been there a year now, but I've been trying to navigate my way through the ecosystem. And yeah, so being in Chattanooga now, a little bit over a year, from Memphis originally. entrepreneur. I'm from, went to Austin Peay State University in Clarksville, public school, born and bred. And so now I'm trying to create impact and opportunity and culture and connection everywhere I go. So here we all are. And I'm so happy to meet you guys.
Well, we're gonna try and pull you into this and share the wealth across Chattanooga at the same time.
Chattanooga was great. Thank you for having us last fall. It was an awesome experience.
Oh yes, we had so much fun. I was on the local host committee, so I had a small piece, very small piece in what they already created.
It was large.
It was. I can't take too much credit. I have to give it to the credit to whom is due. I know the public projects for public spaces, they really worked with us on trying to make sure that, it was very Chattanooga centric, and that we were able to share our stories with the world. And so I'm just happy to be a part of this all, and to have so many new friends and new friendly faces to communicate with, and especially at a time like this when everybody is just trying to hold on to what connections they do have left for our own sanity. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and I'm even more grateful that Monica and Jim have now looped me into a bigger conversation that is bigger than all of us, which is just, what are our kids going to do, right? Like, what's next for our next generations, and what's next for our economy. And so, yeah, these conversations have been really, really insightful.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yes, guys.
We got to talk declaration.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Yes.
That's for the children.
Yes.
That's the summary of a declaration right there.
Yes.
Yep, you hit right on the head. Thank you. We couldn't do all the other stuff, so why not get to work on this while we can?
Yes. All right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. This is really cool. And I'm glad we're all in alignment. And this is going to be a great tool for Scott to play with, and then for all of us to experiment with, and hopefully export to many other cities.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much.
Looking forward to it. We'll be talking soon.
Right.
Bye.
Nice meeting everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.